Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. My name is Ali Grayman, and let's get to some questions. So the question that I had is, if you are at a certain level of OCD and you're finding very hard to resist, does it mean that you need to take medication? And if you find it easier to resist, does it mean that you have already accomplished um, some part of the recovery, so where you're at a certain stage of the recovery where you are able to resist, so that means you're further. And that's exactly right, that if you can resist, that means you are obviously better, because some of the time you can say no to OCD. Ideally, to recover, you need to say no to OCD all the time. So if you can say it more so than not, then you're moving towards the recovery. If you are saying it less so, and most of the time you're still doing reassurance, then I would say it may be wise to look into medication. But again, medication is a temporary tool. I don't like when the doctors suggest to people that medication is something that the person has to take and then stick with it for life because there's no other way to get over OCD. If the doctor doesn't know how to help the person get over OCD, they can just say so. I don't know how to help you, you know? But they shouldn't be saying to people that there is no way, because it's just, honestly, it's just simply not true. I mean, I'm not the most strongest willed person in the world. If I can get over this, there's no reason for anybody else not to be able to get over it. And sometimes medication helps, but only as a temporary tool. Because what the medication is gonna do is it's gonna bring down your OCD level, like your level of anxiety. So either you are gonna do it yourself, say for example, if you're at a level 10 anxiety for OCD and you cannot resist, right? You try to resist the reassurance, the compulsions, but you simply can't, and you end up falling into it all the time. If you only some of the time, then you probably don't need medication. But if it's all the time, then what's going to happen is when you start taking the medication, you're going to go down to maybe an 8 out of 10. Still very high anxiety is not going to drastically change the situation, but 8 out of 10 will allow you some breathing room in order to be able to process the thoughts. So it is going to make it a little bit better for you and a little bit easier, so you are able to resist. So, but if you are, sometimes people start out at 10 out of 10 anxiety, and they have enough inner strength to fight it without the medication. And I don't know what that's due to. I think it's just basically the people that are sick of their OCD the most and are just willing to go for it. They recover usually the fastest because they're willing to go for the reassurance, and for not to refuse the reassurance rather, and to take the chance of uncertainty, which is, you're not really taking a chance because there's really nothing wrong. Not to give you reassurance, but it's just true, right? But at the same time, by you saying actively, I'm not paying attention, I'm refusing, I'm going through it without any help, like without seeking reassurance, without doing compulsions, that's going to send you to the next level of recovery. But if you can't do it, it's okay, and the medication helps. Sometimes I find that people who are in a stressful situation in their life, like if they're busy, if they just a lot on their plate basically, it's much harder for them to focus on the recovery and to do the right thing. Because if you are so busy and so many things are happening, a lot of the times the person will be like, well, I'll put it off for a little while, I'll put it off some more. And what happens is that time after time, they start putting off the recovery and just seeking reassurance just this once, and then just one more time, and it becomes their pattern, and they're actually making themselves worse. That's what I find, that is also something that happens very often. And in that case, I mean, if you look at medication as a temporary thing, so what if you take medication for a month or two? It really doesn't matter. I find that it's only a problem when a person starts looking at medication as their recovery solution, because you're not really recovering. If you take medication for 20 years but you're still doing the compulsions and keeping OCD going, after 20 years you drop medication for some reason, right? It's going to come right back. Never mind of all the side effects of the medications, right? So that's just my opinion on it. As you know, I'm not a doctor, but as you know, I have gotten over OCD myself, so I know what I'm talking about. So, okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, so the next question I have is about health issues such as scratches, scars, cuts, and the person is saying that they're worried. What if this is cancer, or what if something strange or something like that, because they have a cut. So, with that, the best way to go about this is, obviously, there's, I don't want to give you reassurance, but you have to start thinking of it as an OCD thought. And at first you will feel like you're lying to yourself, like, well, what if it turns out not to be an OCD thought? This is dangerous. I need to check it. I need to document it. I need to take pictures. But all of these behaviors are actually making it worse. So you have to start living your life as if this is an OCD thought. It doesn't matter, you're moving on from it. And as you keep living your life like this, you will see that the thought gets lighter, and once that emotion gets pulled away, because right now you're reacting emotionally. You see it, you get worried, you start to maybe even look up these like symptoms. What if this is that? What if that is this? And the internet will give you a lot of responses, and it's just going to confuse you further. So you want to say, this is OCD, I'm moving on. And as you do this, the emotions will kind of leave you when it comes to this thought. Like you won't react emotionally to it, because you keep reminding your mind that this is OCD. And once that happens, once the emotions go, you will be able to logically and rationally understand that there was nothing there in the first place. But until the emotions go, it's kind of like you're taking a leap of faith. But trust me, nobody has thought of something as OCD and it actually turned out to be true. And I have a lot of experience, as you know, talking to people. Not once has it happened with any one of the themes, like medical theme, any other theme. It doesn't happen, So, but you do have to take that leap of faith. And your exposure in this case, because you were saying that you weren't sure how to do exposures for this situation, the exposure would be because obviously this is like on you, so you already have exposure all the time. But when you see it in the mirror, for example, or just when you catch a glimpse of it, somehow you want to say that this is OCD, I'm not paying attention, and that is the exposure. You're exposed to the situation, but you're refusing to react, right? Exposure and response prevention. You're exposed, you're refusing the response. You're preventing the response, right? Now, the second thing you were saying, just for everybody else, just so you guys, if you're in a similar situation, basically the person is worried that a dog is going to bite one of the family members, and they're concerned about that. So with that, as you know, based on what you described, there is no actual danger, right? Dogs, sometimes they can nip you and things like that, and they've already, like this particular dog has already done this on numerous occasions. So your mom is right to take it lightly. There isn't actually any issue here, but because you are so overly concerned with the safety, your own safety with the other situation, as well as your mom's safety with this situation, it seems very important. And again, it's that emotional response, right? Once you start pulling away from it, you will feel better, emotionally pull away from it. But these behaviors of like trying to separate the dog from your mom, um, all they're going to do is they're going to make the situation worse, because first of all, it's not fair to the dog, because it doesn't know that you have OCD, and it's not a dangerous dog, right? So most dogs, if provoked, will nip you, So the way to get over this, though, obsession with the dog situation is for you to allow your mom to be close to the dog without you reacting. So if the dog bites, even if it bites, okay, it's, first of all, your mom is a grown woman; she can deal with it, right? Second of all, it's really losing that focus on that specific situation with the dog. Basically saying, this situation with the dog, no, doesn't matter anymore to me. I don't care if it bites. I don't care if it doesn't bite. I'm not going to do anything to prevent it. I'm just not going to pay attention to it. Same thing with the cut situation, right? That The cut is there, the cut is not there, I'm not going to check, I'm not going to try to figure it out, I'm not going to do online research. You're pretending that these two situations do not exist, because to any person who doesn't have OCD, neither one would be important, right? So, but the more you focus your attention on them, the more important they seem. And like you were saying, you're doing good in all of your other areas of the exposures, and for these two things, the exposure would be to reduce the compulsions, right? So you're reducing the compulsions, which means they're reducing your response, because the exposure, we already have it. Dog is there all the time, the cut, like on you, the cut is there all the time as well, right? So the exposure is there, just your response right now is wrong. Correct the response, you will start to feel better. If you don't feel better, that means somewhere you're doing a compulsion. So a lot of the times when I find that when a person is doing not doing better, it usually turns out that the compulsion has to do with, in their mind, they're going over the situation again and again. So they're not doing any physical compulsions, but in their mind they're going over it. And if you have any more questions, please email me and we can go over this, or we can set up a session. So I'm more than willing to do that. So to your other question as well, with PURO, yes, you will feel the urge to check again. And that urge just has to do with the fact that your mind has been conditioned before, when you were doing a lot of reassurance, it's been conditioned to view this situation as dangerous. So it's going to try to send it to you whenever possible, repeatedly. It can keep sending it, the thoughts to you, but you are not going to check again. And you can just say it as an affirmation. You can just say that I don't care how many times you send this thought to me, if it has to do with my situations, like we talked before about if it has to do with the dog or if it has to do with a cut, I'm not paying attention to this thought anymore. I'm moving on. And it doesn't matter in what way you will send it to me, I'm not going to react to anything that has to do with those thoughts. Now, at this point, OCD might switch to another topic. And again, if you feel like there's a new topic that's getting repetitive and starting to feel like a new OCD thought, you want to do the same thing and say, this is my OCD again. I'm not going over this. I'm not paying attention. I'm moving on. And doing it that way will really stop the obsessions from coming in. And again, the anxiety will not go away suddenly, because you've conditioned it before that the thought is important. You've conditioned your mind of that in the past. So your mind for a little bit of time is going to react the same way, because it's just used to handling that particular thought in that particular way. But it is always changing depending on how you're acting. So what you're doing now and how you're reacting now to these situations is really shaping your future in how your mind is going to interpret it, right? So for example, if you refuse to pay attention to anything that has to do with the cut, right? Then eventually you'll just start looking at it like there's nothing here. Or same thing with the dog, right? That right now you're looking at the dog and you think dog equals danger, right? But if you keep reaffirming to your mind that there's no danger here, it's a normal dog, there's nothing wrong, eventually you'll just start looking at it like a dog and not viewing it as anything more than that. But it will take some time. You just have to be forceful and over keep drumming in that same signal, and eventually your mind will get it and move on. And I promise this is just how OCD works for everybody. Obsessions might be different person to person, but the way the mind interprets them and the way the mind changes it is the same. So another question I had is, if you're going for a few days and you have no OCD and then suddenly OCD hits, why does that happen? And the reason why it happens is because of reassurance. It means that you were doing good for a few days and you weren't seeking reassurance, and then maybe you got caught up like in life and just got too busy and stopped paying attention to the, refusing reassurance and refusing the compulsions. Or maybe you just something caused you to pay attention to the thought. And as soon as you did that, the brain's like, oh, you're paying attention to this thought again. I better bring up more of it. And then you start to go downhill very fast, right? So it's normal. It happens. The fact that you had a few days gap is already great. Now let's try to make the next gap bigger until all you have are these massive gaps of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of no OCD, and then you have after that no OCD entirely, right? So these gaps are a good sign. That means you are progressing. Now you want to make more of them and make them longer. So, and just picking yourself up right after. So what? You paid attention to the thought. Now you're stopping. Now you're moving on. Not dwelling on the OCD and just like as if it never happened. Because every moment you suffer with the thought and paying attention to the thought is every moment that you're making your brain worse. And we want to make your brain better and not worse, right? So you want to pick yourself up, pretend it didn't happen, move on, and get yourself busy, because being busy really, really helps. Like work on a project, do something you've never done before. Even going for a walk or seeing friends, give your mind new experiences to grab onto. So it's going to have to push this situation out. So these are all my questions for today. If you guys have questions, please let me know. You can email me to info@youhaveocd.com. Just make sure that if it is something of a private nature and you don't want me to say it on the show, let me know. And then the other way, if you want me to say it on the show, let me know that I can say it. So because I don't want to mess something up and say the wrong thing. If you would like to have one-on-one private recovery program with me, you can find it at youhaveocd.com. There's also books there available. There's a lot of free information, so please check that out. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you can't share this video or any of my videos, please share, because we need to get the word out that you can get over OCD, that it's not a life sentence, and that you can overcome it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.